Hello, and welcome to Logic Pro Trainer, or welcome back to Logic Pro Trainer if you've seen some of my previous videos. So I'm just getting ready to create a new course of lessons looking at getting into sequencing with Logic. And it's going to include various topics, obviously like setting up a project, looking at different types of tracks that you can use in Logic, looking at different methods of note input, ways of getting musical notes into Logic, then going on to look at note editing, looking at the different sound sources in Logic, so the different instruments and sounds that are available to you, going on to look at mixing and effects, and also we'll be looking at automation and also export and bouncing. There'll probably be other little topics that creep in as we go along. So we're going to look at sequencing this piece of music, this track called LaLaLa by Naughty Boy featuring Sam Smith. So let's get ready to go. So I've got Logic Pro X open. I'm going to come up to File and create a new project. So let's start by making an audio track, because the very first thing that we need to do is to get some reference audio into Logic. So here's the original song, the original production, and I'm just going to drag that onto my audio track. There it goes. Now it's really important to get the original song into Logic rather than playing it through iTunes or through QuickTime Player or whatever, because if you've got it on an audio track in Logic, you can refer directly to it and you can compare your work to the original track without having to go into a different application. Now you can hear when I play it, there's a little gap at the beginning. It doesn't start straight away. So that's the first thing I'm going to deal with. If we double click on this audio file, this will open up the waveform editor. You can also do that by pressing W. Okay, so W will toggle the waveform editor. We've got two tabs here. We've got one called Track and one called File. So if you've got Track selected, just go and click on File so we can edit the audio file. And down here at the bottom where we see this region bar, if you bring your mouse all the way over to the left-hand edge, so you get this little cursor icon. I'm just going to click and drag this up to where we see the very first bit of waveform. Okay, so this is where the sound actually starts. This is the first note starting right here. Zoom in a little bit if you need to do that precisely. So I'm just trimming out that little bit of silence at the beginning so that the file starts straight away with the first bit of sound that we hear. Press W to hide that editor. So now you can see there's no silence at the beginning, but it's starting late now. It's not starting at the top of bar 1. So the next thing I'm going to do is control click on this file, come down to Move and select Shuffle Left. And that just pushes that up slightly to the left so that when I press play at bar 1, it starts immediately. Okay, next thing we need to do is to set the tempo. Now on the skeleton score it says the tempo is 125, so let's try that. 125 BPM. Just double click on the tempo there to tap that in. And I'm just going to bring the volume down a little bit so I can hear the click nice and clearly. That sounds pretty good. Let's skip on a bit. Okay, so the drums then come in the end of bar 16. Now on the last beat of bar 16, that's where the first snare drum is hitting. 1, 2, 3, get in, go. So the snare falls on beat 4. If I bring my playhead over here to beat 4, looking at the waveform here, you can actually see that snare drum. It's this kind of spike, what we call a transient in the waveform, and it's actually coming in a little bit ahead, a little bit early, just a bit before the 4th beat of the bar. So what I'm going to do, zoom in nice and close horizontally, and I'm just going to click and drag this along to the right so that that snare drum happens exactly at the 4th beat of the bar. Okay, so we're just tightening up the timing here so that the drums should be exactly in time with the click. Sounds pretty good. Let's just skip through the song and make sure that it's staying in time all the way through. Great stuff. That all works then, that's exactly in time. Okay, now that I've got in my reference audio, I'm going to save this file as LaLaLa. I'm just going to go to save as because I'm going to save this again. If you have this button here checked, audio files, what that'll do, I'm just going to save this again, is it'll make a copy of your reference audio inside the Logic package file. I'll show you what I mean. I'm just going to hide Logic. So here is what I've saved. Here's my project. Now if I click on Show Package Contents, you can see there's a folder here called Media, and in that folder is my original audio. So this project then, the idea is this contains everything you need. You don't have to worry about keeping separate copies of any audio files and so on. And we'll look at that in more detail as we go along. So back into Logic. So I'm all set now. So I'm going to crack on and get this sequence together. And over the course of these lessons, we'll look at some of the techniques that have been involved, some of the things that you need to think about. But that'll do for now, so I'll see you soon.